Happy Halloween, everyone. We got an NBA trade. It's going to be James Harden to the Clippers. They've been talking about this for months now. I'm on ESPN's website on an article that talks about it. I think Woj was the first one to break the news, but it's either him or Shams, as usual. So just going to be breaking down what happened and talking about what I think will happen for each team. Let's start with the Clippers since they're getting the star. They're going to get James Harden, but notably also PJ Tucker. And I also don't really know much about this person, Philip Petrusev, but they're also going to be getting him. I'm not even sure what position he plays. But anyway, the main person here is Harden. And then I think PJ Tucker is actually a good piece for the Clippers. He's good on defense, and he's also played with Russ and Harden together in Houston before, so that'll be good for them. To have that chemistry already there should help jumpstart things with them, and it'll be a good player to come off the bench. Harden, though, is just going to be a good player for the Clippers because I think it's just a given at this point that Kawhi is at the very least going to miss like 20 games, at least. Probably more, though. He'll probably miss at least like 40 games this year because he'll probably get injured at some point, and then they'll try and load manage him, make sure he's ready for the playoffs. You kind of already know the deal with the Clippers. Paul George in recent years has also shown to have an injury history, so having a guard like Harden that can come in and kind of be the floor general. Granted, they have Russell Westbrook who could have done that, but for what they gave up here, I think it's going to be worth it for them. And now you'll also have Russ and Harden at the same time. So basically you're going to be looking at the 2019 Rockets, I think it was, that had Harden and Russ, also with PJ Tucker, and I think they also have Robert Covington for that, but they just traded away him. So, but I think this will be good. It'll be a lot of points in the paint for them with Harden and Russ driving, and then maybe they kick it out to Terrence Mann. It's unfortunate they don't have Eric Gordon. It really would have been the Rockets reunion, but they got rid of him this offseason. But I think it'll really, really open up the floor for Kawhi when they're all on the floor together with those four, with Zubac at the 5, and then you got Russ and Harden at the 1 and 2, and then Kawhi and PG at 3 and 4. I think that is just a good lineup if they're all healthy. That's the main question, obviously, with the Clippers every year is if they're healthy. But I think this will actually help them kind of load manage Kawhi to make sure that they can stay healthy in time for the playoffs. The problem will be, are you going to have what happened last year where Kawhi plays one game in the playoffs and gets injured instantly? Like, is he going to be made of paper again? Like, that's the big concern there. But I think with with that starting 5, it's pretty insane. And their bench is also pretty insane. Bones Highland, Terrence Mann, Mason Plumlee on some nights looks better than Zubac, so that's just absurd. Incredible spacing, I think. Defense is kind of not great, but I think their bench actually has really solid defense between PJ Tucker and Plumlee. Maybe you could say Bones has good defense. I'm not sure. It's kind of just how he's feeling that night from what I've seen. Personally, I don't watch every NBA game. I'm not going to pretend like that happens because during the NFL season, I'm focused on watching the NFL. But to start out the year, the Clippers haven't looked too terrible. They lost to the Jazz. Not great. All right, let's move over to the Sixers, though, see what they got. All right, so they got Robert Covington, Nick Batum, KJ Martin. Those are really non-factors. Rocco might be a good rotational player. Nick Batum can give you good defense, but in the last few months that he's played basketball, talking about the end of last year and the beginning of this year, he hasn't looked like as good of a shooter as I would say he was at the start of last year. KJ Martin, nobody. No offense to him. 2028 unprotected first round pick. I'm looking right here. That is probably going to be the best thing the Sixers got out of this because it's 2023 to 2024 right now. So the next draft's the 24 draft. So you got basically 4 drafts in between then, 4 years for the Clippers to just fall apart and that be a really good pick. I think there's a pretty good chance of that. I think the owner of the Clippers, what's his name? I think, is it Steve Ballmer? I'm not sure. That owns the Clippers. He's really trying to keep them good for their new stadium. But I just don't know if it's in the cards because Kawhi and Paul George are probably going to be gone by the time that that pick comes around. And even if they aren't gone, they're going to be older and probably not as good and definitely made of paper then. James Harden, you could sign to an extended contract all the way through then, but at that point, he's not going to be good. I mean, he's steadily declined over the last couple of years, and I think if that continues, he's just not going to be any good. So they're Clippers long term, big trouble. Short term looks great, but this 2028 first round pick could be interesting when it comes to that time. 2 second round picks. I'm not sure what year that is. It doesn't say here, but no one really cares about second round picks in the NBA. Obviously, there are good players that come from the second round, but it's not something that you're going to talk a whole lot about. 2029 pick swap. Now, this is interesting because I think that if the Sixers are able to keep Joel Embiid through then this could turn out to be really good for them. But if things fall apart and Joel Embiid leaves, then this might be a non-factor right here. This pick swap, it might not even matter. And then they sent a first round pick for, I believe it was 2027. Oh yeah, right here it says 2027 that they got from OKC. So that'll probably be just as good as the 2028, but it might not be quite as good because they might be still holding on just a little bit to relevancy then. Obviously, the Clippers could just have some random free agency signing in between them where they massively overpay someone like a LaMelo Ball or something like that, where they have a good player, but he's overpaid, but still brings in tickets and keeps them to somewhat like mediocrity. But we'll see. Something that this article mentions that I didn't hear many people talking about, but I think is noteworthy. The Sixers are going to waive Danny Green to create roster space for this. I personally think Danny Green is at least more valuable than Nick Batum and KJ Martin. I can understand wanting to keep Rocco in your rotation because he's a solid 5, but I don't know about that. The Sixers, I guess they don't need too much shooting, and he's kind of a liability on defense, whereas Nick Batum's going to give you really good defense, but kind of a shoddy three-point shooting. I mean, he's okay. Like, he's a solid three-point shooter when he's on, but when he's off, it's just terrible. Being a Clippers fan, I can tell you that is going to be a nightmare sometimes for Sixers fans. But that's about it, really. I think for the West overall, because I think the Sixers, this doesn't even really affect them for this year. I think really the picks are going to be what changes for them. But, I mean, I guess this year having Robert Covington come off the bench for Joel is going to be good, I guess. But, like, I don't know how much that's going to be a big deal. Because really that team is carried by Joel Embiid. I mean, Maxi's looking great this year so far, but we'll see. Anyway, for the West, though, it's a highly competitive West. So even with the stacked team, the Clippers could miss the playoffs, which would be insane. I don't see that happening, but it is a very competitive Western Conference. I think they probably land where they did last year, maybe a little bit better, like the 5 seed or the 4 seed. It really just depends on the health of Kawhi and Paul George, and maybe not even the health, but just how much they decide to load manage them. Maybe they get out to a good 40 wins by the All-Star. I mean, that would be crazy, but like if they had 40 wins by the All-Star break, they're load managing the crap out of Kawhi and stuff. That's definitely not going to happen, though. But like if they had like maybe 30 or something like that, they might start to load manage him more. If they have less than that, they're going to probably play him as much as possible, though. I think the worst thing that could happen to the Clippers is that they end up in the play-in, and then like right before the play-in, Kawhi or Paul George gets injured, Because for them, they really need those 7-game series so that they can have time for their players to be healthy and play enough games, Other than that, that's about it. Happy Halloween. Stay safe, trick-or-treating. Subscribe if you want to see more NBA videos. This is my first one. Let me know how you enjoyed it. Or if you didn't enjoy it and what I could do to do better. Probably less mumbling or babbling on about random nonsense. Anyway, see ya.